Greetings. My name is Linda Morse, and I'd like to talk to you today about strategies for taking your TCM exams. It would be wonderful if you can all pay attention to me for just 10 or 15 minutes and enjoy, relax, and have a cup of tea or coffee, and off we go. I have been teaching board review since the year 2000, graduated from Empress College in 1999. So I'm really happy to work with you today, and I'd like to talk to you about some of the issues that come up with students when they're studying for their exams. So let's go through a few of these. So the first one, number one here, is studying the proper material. I've noticed over the years that students will call me, let's say they purchased my videos at Acupuncture review classes, and they may say to me, well, should I start the videos right away, or should I work on my notes for a while? And I'm like, no. Why would you work on your notes? The most important things for you to do are to check the syllabus. So wherever, go on the website for whichever test you're taking, see what the syllabus is. You may be using books in school that were never even going to be on the exam, so why would you want to go back and look at all the materials that you learned in school? So if you've purchased video courses, then start the video courses right away. Don't wait to study the material. It reminds me of cooking. If you have a recipe that you want to prepare for your family, you look at the ingredients, purchase what you need, and then you make it. It's the same thing. It's very simple. It's the same thing with what we're doing. You're looking at the syllabus, you're preparing yourself for what you should be studying. Okay, so that is a big problem that I see with students. So let's look at the books. What books are they using for the test? Okay, the second thing that you want to do is set up a space. Set up a space for yourself that is going to work, a quiet space somewhere. They also recommend that you use a purple pen. Statistically, we're used to blue and black, but purple is something that might stand out. So have your pens all set up. Another thing that I always suggest is if you're studying at the same time every day, how about a little aromatherapy on your forehead, on your wrist, and every time you sit down and study, you put a little aromatherapy on you, and it reminds you, I'm supposed to be studying now. Okay, and make your space quiet, comfortable, and it's all right for you to move around too. When I'm quizzing myself, I'll move from room to room just to get a different perspective on things at the end of my studying. So that's a good place to start. And then what do you do next? You need to set up a schedule. I believe that 6 to 8 weeks is adequate time to study for your exams. Unless you're a person that's working full time, you have quite a few children, you just don't have time to study. But I really feel like the maximum should be 10 weeks. And the reason for that is because any longer than that, you're forgetting what you started to study at the beginning. Okay, so that's really important. So you set up a schedule, get a calendar out. You can put everything on the calendar. You can put what time you go to work, what time you get up, whatever you want to put on the calendar. And then you kind of put in there what times a day you're going to study. Okay, you can even go as far as to put the subjects that you want to study, which we'll talk about in a minute. So, you're laying out that calendar, you're putting on there, what days you're going to study, what hours you're going to study, and that's like super important, right? And make it out for what you think is a good time for you. If you get out of school, you're just out of school, you probably don't need as much time to study as if you'd been out a longer period of time. Okay, so that's a very good place to start. The next thing that you might want to do is, what would you want to do next? Let's talk about how you're studying. So when you're building your schedule, are you just going to put, let's say, formulas on there? If you're doing an herbology exam, you're just going to put formulas on there once a week? No. Another error that students make is that they'll study one subject for a week. And that's fine when you're in school, taking your courses. I used to do the same thing. We'd have, 12 weeks of class or 15 weeks of class, cram, and then, we're done with those subjects, we move on. But you don't really want to lay it out like that. The biggest thing that you want to learn about how to study is repetition. Repetition. So you should plan on studying, let's say you're doing an herbology test. You plan on studying formulas 3 days or 4 days a week, every other day. You're studying, let's say Monday you're doing tongue and pulse of 40 formulas. Wednesday you're doing tongue and pulse of the other 40 formulas. Okay? Maybe Friday you're doing indications of the formulas. So it's repetition. You don't have to do the same subject. Not the same subject, but you don't have to do the same cards on Wednesday that you did on Monday, right? Because you'll remember, if Wednesday you're doing a formula and it's like a white greasy tongue coating, you might say, oh, I remember on Monday I had a white greasy tongue coating on this formula. It all just pops back into your head. But it's really about repetition. That is what's going to help you memorize what you're supposed to. Okay, that's super important. All right? Now, the other thing is, I really like to see people have study partners, but that doesn't necessarily happen, especially when you're studying for your national exams, because you can't find somebody to match up with. It'd be great if you could. I have small classes included in my videos, and people will join up with each other that don't know each other at all. But you want to study the same way with your study partners that you're studying at home. So, you're changing subjects. Now, obviously, this is going to change from when you start studying till the end. So if you were doing your acupuncture exam, you would start your point prescriptions, anything that's a big subject, like diagnosis for foundations, acupuncture point prescription for your acupuncture exam. Start that at the beginning so you can get a good solid 6 to 10 weeks of studying, memorizing point prescription, understanding diagnosis. Whereas for the Morse and cupping, if you were doing the acupuncture exam, you'd probably wait until the last couple of weeks, to add that in. But again, it's not going to be once a week if you're only going to do it for 2 weeks. So how does that change the time you study? So let's say when you start your first week of studying, you should be doing, let's say we're taking the acupuncture exam. You're doing an hour on CAM point prescriptions. You're doing 20 minutes on the big picture page. Half an hour on point selection. 45 minutes on therapeutics of points. Okay, change. Do not spend 3-4 hours on one subject. It statistically doesn't work. Okay? They say that if you're in it 2 or 3 hours, you don't even remember it. It's comfortable, it makes you feel good, but it's not what's working right. And like I said, you should try to get through all your subjects at the end, especially in 2 or 3 days. You'll be done everything. So change it up. So at the end, if you're doing the acupuncture exam, you're doing 20 minutes on Morse and cupping, 20 minutes on scalp, 20 minutes on ear, an hour on point prescription, an hour on point location. You see what I mean? You're changing it up. Now, I think the most difficult thing with studying is literally getting to study. Like, you get there. How do you get there? So I used to set up a little thing for myself. I said, all right, I'm going to put the kitchen timer on a half an hour. And in that half an hour, I would say, I'm only going to sit there and study for half an hour, and I mean it. And then I'm going to go do something else. So I would set the timer for half an hour. And once I sat down, I stayed as long as I could, 1, 2 hours, until I had something, pressing that I had to do. But it's amazing how well it worked, and it continued to work. So, if you get any time at all, it makes you feel better. People, even if you can only study an hour a day, or if you're in the holiday time, you get up in the morning and you spend a half an hour, so a half an hour studying. It's fantastic. I mean, so what? It adds up to 3.5 hours a week. Or an hour a day adds up to 7 hours in a week. And you feel good about yourself. But if you set up a schedule and you're all ready to take your test, and all of a sudden you're not doing, any time at all, one day goes by, another day goes by, you're starting to feel really badly about yourself. It's like, I didn't get to it yesterday, I didn't get it the day before, and you start making more and more excuses. And then all of a sudden you find yourself 6 months down the road, you haven't taken your exams. And that's not good, right? So, really, I think one of the more important things is that you do try to study some every day, and that it'll encourage you. It'll encourage you to do more studying. And when you're with your study partners, you should try to study with your study partners, 3 to 5 hours a day, 3 to 5. Not a day, but every time you get together. Now, again, like I said, at the beginning, it's more understanding and talking about the material. But at the end, you guys should be just doing flashcards. Okay? Flashcard, flashcard, flashcard. So, great to have study partners. So, where are we so far? We're definitely making sure that we're studying the right material. So I won't hear that conversation anymore, right? From people that are saying, I started studying on my own, and I don't know. People say, I failed, it's my 3rd time failing, I'm studying all this material from school. That's not going to work. Set up a schedule. Okay, set up the schedule. Remember, no more than an hour and a half a day on one subject. And if they're small subjects, 20 minutes. And I'll tell you, as a side note, most important to study is tongue and pulse. Tongue and pulse will help you with every exam. So immediately you start making up flashcards on tongue and pulse and 10 asking song and inspection of the body. You just get there and you start. Those are really helpful. People say, if I had 2 hours to study, what would you recommend? That's what I would recommend, because it's most helpful. You learn how to answer test questions. We do that in our small classes that are included in the videos all the time. That's what we do. We talk about how to answer test questions. Okay, so you have a quiet place to study. It's nice and clean. You've looked at the syllabus. You have a schedule set up for yourself. You are studying properly an hour and a half. So what happens, somebody say to me, all right, work full time. I only have 2 hours a day to study when I come home at night. Okay, so downsize a little bit. So maybe this person will spend a half an hour on point prescriptions, 20 minutes on tongue and pulse, 10 minutes on moxa. So you want to try to get through at least 2 or 3 subjects, a day. Now, obviously, if you have 3 or 4 hours, you spend a little bit more. But if you only have 2 hours, that's still okay. I still wouldn't spend that whole 2 hours on one subject, because you're still not going to get the repetition. Just like individual herbs, I always say do 40 cards a day for half an hour because we have 250 herbs or more. So you don't do the same cards over and over again, but if you were doing it for 10 weeks, I'd say pretty sure that you would have 75 to 80% of those herbs learned just by the repetition of doing them over and over. When you sit down and you tell yourself that you're going to memorize something, your brain goes somewhere that you don't want to go. It just starts creating havoc. I have to learn this. I have to learn this right now. But if you sit and relax with the information, I'm going to study this for half an hour. I'll get to it again tomorrow. Your mind just soaks it in. Okay? That's what it does. So this is really, this is really the way to do it. Now, we didn't talk about flashcards. I do have that on another video on YouTube. So, but just as a quick thought, flashcards, those of you that like to write down and use charts and open up commentaries, first of all, charts are great, but the final thing you have to memorize. And flashcards are the reality of the situation. You want to make them easy. Even like my tongue and pulse were on a 3x5 card. You put let's say, what's a weak pulse? Weak pulse on one side, on the other side, Qi, blood, Yang deficiency. That's it. Okay? We don't put all the tongues on one flashcard. And you laugh, but people try to. They'll take a 5x8 and they'll put all the tongues and pulses on it. It's crazy, right? So let's not do that. But make up those flashcards. The people that try to memorize, they say, I can't pass unless I understand. I need to read all the books. Usually those people take the exam multiple times. Because the reality is you want to look at the question. You want to know the answer. Where is spleen 3? Can you answer that? And you either know it or you don't. It's not like, oh, let me press down on my foot. I can see where it is. No, you need to learn the description. You need to learn the material. Okay, that's super important. So flashcards. Start right away making your flashcards so you can study with your flashcards. Okay, let's talk about quizzing. It's kind of another one of my little things that kind of bother me. The students that they get out of school, they're studying their notes, and all they're doing is finding test questions and quizzing themselves over and over again. But how do you know that that's all the material that you should be learning? If there's X amount of point location on the body, how do you know that the quizzing you've done has covered every point location? You don't know that, right? So I still am of the belief you need to do the work. You need to learn the material. Okay? So you learn the material and then you quiz yourself. You don't continually spend hours quizzing yourself and memorizing, the test questions and the answers. That's not how to do it. Get a study partner or study on your own. Make up flashcards, quiz, understand how to do this, right? Then test yourself. Where am I? Where am I weak? How was I studying that material? Was I doing it, the right way? Did I not have my tongues and pulses memorized? Did I write it so that I can't read it? What are the questions that go through your mind? There has to be a reality check here. I remember having one on myself about a month before my exam. Okay, Linda, here you are. This isn't working for you because you haven't learned anything on the page. So obviously you need to do something different. So you start making up flashcards. And I started making up flashcards, and it was for tongue and pulse. And I'm telling you, I spent I think I spent like a half an hour 3 times a day for a week flashing those cards, and I had it down as well as I know my name. And it made such a huge difference. Then when I quizzed myself, I was getting them all right. And another thing I want to bring up, I always kind of think it's really curious, there'll be students that are quizzing themselves, but they haven't learned the material. So they're trying to figure out why they got the question wrong. Why was it wrong? Instead of spending time figuring out why you had it incorrect, if you learned the material, you would have gotten it correct. It's not about why you had it wrong. Unless it's a really long case and you absolutely no diagnosis and you're stumped on why you have it wrong. That's a different circumstance. But this continually breaking down the questions, trying to figure out why you had them incorrect when you haven't learned the material, is a waste of your valuable time. And believe me, the world is spinning faster than ever, and all of you are so busy with your lives and your family and your jobs and your school. You don't have time to do that. And I tell you, I am convinced that 99% of the students could pass this exam on the first try. And that 1%, family issues came up, health issues came up. They could do it on the first try if they'd stop doing it in ways that aren't beneficial. And I've been doing this a long time. I've had thousands of students go through me, and I know what works and I know what doesn't work. So I truly believe that this is the way to do it. Setting up your schedule, making your flashcards, having a study partner, saving the quizzing for the end. Quizzing is dessert. It's not breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Okay, that's how you want to think about it. It's definitely your dessert. Now, when you get near the end and you're quizzing yourself and you're getting very good scores, then you know you're ready. And you do know when you're ready. You can feel it, right? You feel it when you're ready. You understand it. I'm ready. I know I'm ready. Okay, so those are things that I would tell you to do. Hope you're having a great time with us. And I truly believe this can happen for you if you study properly. Please look me up on acupuncturereviewclasses.com. Look me up under my name, Linda Morse, M-O-R-S-E. I have an email address, and LindaMorseLAC@hotmail.com. My phone number is on my website. This is my life. I believe in helping students pass their exams. It is personal with me. I like to see you all pass, and you can do this. You can do it on the first try. And I'm always happy to help you. So plan ahead. I hope this helped you a little bit. Have fun with it. You're going on to a new profession. It's very exciting, and we need you. We need you out there, especially right now. Thanks for coming. Hope to see you again soon.